Welcome to Taking the Higher Road, a special show dedicated to the trucking industry, specifically at the confluence of recruiting, retention, and compliance. In the 4th year as the host of this show, I bring over 2 decades of industry experience, both on the carrier side as well as the vendor side. Each week, I interview industry experts and thought leaders who bring their insight to the driver lifecycle as we discuss the industry's greatest challenges. I always appreciate your feedback on the show, good or bad. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review. I'd also like to thank and highlight the show's valuable sponsors. Their dedication and commitment to the industry and to the show is greatly appreciated. If you're interested in being a sponsor of the show or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. I'm honored to be joined today by a pair of innovative leaders who came from trucking, recognized a need firsthand, and created a solution to a trailer utilization problem that nearly every carrier experiences. Spencer Ware, co-founder and CEO, and Patrick Visintainer, co-founder and COO of REPOWR. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Well, I'm really excited to chat with you both. I've been a fan of yours and what you do since I first heard about REPOWR. I'd love to learn about your backgrounds, how you met, how you got into the trucking industry, and then what it was that led you to create REPOWR. I want to make sure that you share with the audience what REPOWR is, obviously, and how valuable a tool it is for everyone, really, no matter what their fleet size. And perhaps you can share how different companies are leveraging the flexible solution in different ways. And lastly, I want to be sure we provide some info so carriers can know how best to connect with you to incorporate REPOWR into their asset utilization plans. I know you make it super easy. So does that all work for you?
Perfect.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, as you probably know, I start every conversation with a book recommendation, and I'm curious if you both can share maybe a particular book, a podcast, a magazine, something that you have consumed that was impactful. Spencer, you want to start?
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Jeremy. Love the show and excited to dive in. So, I think I am not the biggest reader in the world, but I do love Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Anybody that starts a company knows how challenging it is. And I look at that book as just, it's really a playbook about just difficult challenges that you go through, just the never-ending roller coaster that founders go through. And so I got to say Ben Horowitz there. It's a great read.
I would probably say I've got this one on my desk, Traction by Gino Wickman, all about strategy and building your business and things like that. But really, Jeremy, like Spencer said, starting a company, there's a lot of ups and downs. And so the majority of my time I spend is listening to podcasts, anything that really provides motivation, a positive mindset. There's a lot of things that happen, a lot of failures that happen. And so anything to keep the positive mindset going. I also really enjoy podcasts about, business and thinking deeper about business, gaining insights from others and how they've done it in the past, and how I can relate those things to REPOWR every day and what we're building and what we're doing. So start my day with something motivational and positive, and then throughout the day and at the end of the day, finish it up with something business related. And it's really kind of how I stay steady and motivated.
Well, I love that in both cases because they're both related. I mean, I'm talking to 2 entrepreneurs, and you can relate to the challenges. You've been there, you've experienced it for the last at least 2+ years, the challenges of just being an entrepreneur, startup business, all of the challenges that come with that. And when you can lean on others who have gone through that, whether that's in a book, like, Hard Thing About Hard Things, or podcasts, any of these types of shows where you're getting that sort of information, that sort of like relatability, I think it really helps a lot. Because then okay, they've done this, they've been through that. Here's what they did. Oh, that's a good idea. Like, that's just super helpful. And just to your point again, you can't, like, to the positive attitude aspect, you can't control a lot of things, but what you can control is how you respond to those things. And having that right frame of mind, I think, is super critical. So it's encouraging to hear you guys doing that. I think that's already on the path to success just with that attitude from the get-go.
Absolutely. And just to follow that up, one of my quotes today was, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. So sometimes you got to embrace the struggle and learn from it and know that that's progress being made. So.
Yeah, well, I think this trucking industry for the last 2 years is embracing the struggle because not out of desire, just it's no choice.
Absolutely.
But that's okay. So, can you share a bit about your backgrounds? Like, how did you two meet, and how did you make your way into the trucking industry?
Yeah, so I made my way into the trucking industry from the insurance side of things. So after college, I became an insurance agent in Birmingham, Alabama. I built a book of business of over-the-road fleets, small, mid-sized fleets, and just every year I noticed that my customers the market would be very good. They'd go out and buy as much equipment as they possibly could. And then by the time they got that equipment, trucks and trailers, the market had flipped and a lot of that equipment just sat idle, underutilized. And they didn't really have any type of flexibility. They were stuck with it. They didn't really want to sell the trucks and trailers. They may need it if a big project comes up. But really just, it was a lack of flexibility and just in turn, a lot of underutilized trucks and trailers.
Yeah. And to follow that up, like you said, Spencer and I, we've been best friends since sixth grade, ever since he moved from Memphis to Birmingham, Alabama. And I was his first friend, forced me to go to a movie with him. I didn't want to, and I'm glad I did. But ever since then, we've had a really, really solid connection, and we complement each other very well. And so while he was out doing the insurance thing, I started my career in the logistics trucking space for a large trucking company in Birmingham, Alabama. During the day-to-day, I was coordinating customer freight, working with our shippers and planning drivers. I did some time on the brokerage end, and, the market in the industry, it's extremely volatile. We're seeing it here today. And I saw a lot of the day-to-day inefficiencies and what they did to myself and the struggles that I was going through, just to connect the dots every day. It was a big puzzle piece. And I just continued to see the importance of trailers. And at the time, in those early days, I think that's when they had the ELD mandate and driver's hours of service were coming out. And so trailers played a significant role, and people were wanting drop trailers and things like that. And if they're not at the right place at the right time, that can be detrimental to you, your business, and your customers' experience to want to work with you. And so a lot of huge problems come from just the trailer aspect and the utilization of the trailers. So Spencer and I, being best friends, we are always talking about business and started spitballing some ideas from what I'm saying and what he was saying. And both of those experiences kind of dovetailed together to create REPOWR. And, at the end of the day, we're both eager to do something big and make a change in our careers, our lives. And the biggest regret, I think, in the early days wasn't if REPOWR fails. It was more of, what if we didn't do this? And so we leaned on that, and we supported each other from the very beginning. We had a lot of people saying, no, I'm not going to give somebody this trailer. It's got my name, my logo on the side, things like that. And, but what we wanted to do is go out and meet these customers, go out and meet these people in the industry every day and just learn from them and get their thoughts and opinions and ideas. And we did a lot of research in those early days. And everything that we were finding and coming across from the very beginning idea of REPOWR, it just molded the story of what we wanted to build and created our vision. And it was something we wanted to go after. And, coming out of COVID, it was a perfect time, we thought. And it was, and we were very successful during that time. So,
well, that's awesome. And I saying that you guys complement each other and best friends since sixth grade. I mean, I think that's rare, in the sense that the people like co-founding a company. I think that's great because you already know what you're getting into with each other. You've had a relationship. I'm sure there's ups and downs, and that's what in any relationship. But that's only, forged a stronger, bond and understanding. And so you don't have what are inherently some of the challenges that other co-founders might have if they don't know each other that well. So again, I think that's another sort of notch in the belt of higher likelihood of success. you got to have a good idea and you got to be good people. And I think those things matter. But the idea is sound. I mean, I think when I first heard, I'm like, oh my God, how's nobody doing this? Is great. What a smart thing to do. And how can we leverage technology to make it easier? So now, that all being said, just for the audience, if you don't mind, like, could you share what is REPOWR for maybe the few that might not be familiar with it? How would you define REPOWR to the audience?
Yeah, so the fundamental reason that REPOWR exists is to improve trailer utilization. It's a big problem in the industry. 75% of a trailer's lifespan, it's spent detached from a truck. And so if you look around the room that you're sitting in, wherever you may be, everything that you're looking at was once on a trailer at some point. And so recognizing the big problem of trailer utilization, underutilization, REPOWR was born to really connect logistics companies, so carriers, shippers, brokers, owner-operators to collaborate and improve trailer utilization by sharing trailers with one another seamlessly. So we built a marketplace of idle, underutilized, and available trailers throughout the country. And if you're in need of trailers, you can hop on the marketplace, search my location by equipment type, and book it within 3 clicks of a button. So bringing truly on-demand access to trailers to the industry for more flexibility in terms of operations. So that's kind of REPOWR in a nutshell.
Well, you can't do that without technology. I feel like that's just not going to happen. And I think you came at the right time, right? And I think the whole idea of 3 clicks, I think, makes it, that's just, we live in a society now, especially with technology at our fingertips, that it's got to be as easy as possible. Yet you're talking about a pretty sophisticated thing, but you've checked that box in terms of making that really easy. And I think that's critical. And I know the value prop for carriers can vary. I know, like, depending on their size, depending on the season, those sorts of variabilities. Can you share maybe the benefit for a larger fleet that might have like a number of trailers, idle at any given time? And before you answer that, 75% of the time trailers are spent detached. That makes sense, but good God, that seems inefficient. So this is all the more reason why this is so important. So yeah, what's the benefit for larger fleets that might have a number of idle trailers?
Pat, take it.
Well, I was just going to answer the reasoning behind the 75% of them being detached. And like, if you look at the industry, there's millions of shipments that are being processed every day in the United States, right? And a single shipment can involve a single or a dozen companies, systems, processes, assets, and 80% of those shipments, what's the common theme of them? They're being hauled on a trailer. And so the trailer plays a critical role. And so the 3 big problems that help get us to the original 75% number that we noticed was fragmentation. 97% of the available trailers that are owned in the marketplace are owned by just 3% of the market. And then on the flip side, 92% of the trucking companies that operate are these smaller fleets. And that creates a fragmentation, and as well as the underutilized assets in the marketplace. And so there's an astonishing amount of waste stemming from poor asset utilization. And on top of that, I mentioned the brand on the trailer and things like that. It's honestly hidden capacity. And, right now, those being inaccessible, to access a trailer, you got to know where the trucking company is. You got to understand the location and have that data of where the trailer is, the load status, the schedule. And each of those factors, prevent idle assets from being accessible. And so I think that's a big key to the 75%. And, the solution that we're able to provide to our user base is, first we got to create that shared visibility, and that's done through integrations, really stemming from, first telematics. We got to know where the trailer is, the status of the trailer. Is it being used? Is it loaded? Is it not? How long it's been sitting? We also need to know, those drivers, the ELD integrations. We need to know where they are, where the demand is. And this opens up doors for us to, efficiently match the truck to a trailer. And then as we get deeper, we look at integrations like TMS integrations and load boards, because we want to meet our customers where they operate day to day. And so the TMS system and the load boards gives us and our users the ability to not only match trailers to loads and loads to trailers, but trailers to drivers and fleets, whether that's for a backhaul, if you're doing power only and you drop off a trailer in Washington State, and now you're sitting there without a truck or without a trailer and a load. We provide a trailer for you right then and there. Seasonal freight opportunities, if you have a pop-up project with a customer and you need additional trailer capacity to support it, but you don't want to go out and you don't have the capital to go buy more trailer capacity, or you don't want to sign a 5-year long lease to lease a bunch of assets, hoping and praying that the contract works out, you can come to REPOWR and get that flexible option. So a lot of different ways from that aspect. And I get go ahead,
flexibility.
Jeremy.
Flexibility
I was just
is
about
key.
to say that.
Yeah. Flexibility is key. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, it's one thing to have, there's some fleets that might, have an excess. That's kind of the question I was asking about larger fleets. They tend to have maybe more idle trailers at any given time. And so it's one thing from a supply standpoint, they're providing you with that supply. And then maybe like kind of your example of smaller fleets, especially 92% of them being six trucks and under, might leverage more on the demand side. But you have companies that are both, right? They're both. They use them when they need them for demand, and then they provide them when they have them for supply. Is that right?
Yeah. We have enterprise fleets that supply trailers every single day, but then we also see them cross over and reserve trailers in an area where maybe their trailer capacity is light and they have a startup project that they need trailers today for. So we see enterprise fleets supplement their existing, 40, 50,000 trailer fleet with other people's trailers all the time. It's awesome.
Yeah, again, light bulb goes off, I think, hopefully for this just makes sense. I mean, especially, I feel like in this economy, especially, opportunities to operate as efficiently as possible and leverage, any of your assets, if they're sitting idle, they're not generating revenue at all, and they are still an expense. So
right.
Being able to, I think that just makes a ton of sense to me. And I do have to ask you this question because I'm curious how you went about setting up the business in the first place, because I know all too well the challenges of creating a marketplace. I owned a CDL driver staffing company for 15 years, and you're matching supply and demand. And so, for me, it was a balancing act, especially early on. So when you created REPOWR, how'd you manage that? Like, was there a particular side of the business, supply side, demand side, that you led with? Because it's sort of this chicken or the egg sort of scenario. At least I experienced that. How did you address that?
When we first got started, Jeremy, it was right off of the heels of COVID. And I think it was January of 21. And at that point in time, a truck driver could not find a trailer anywhere. No leasing companies couldn't buy a trailer. It was just very scarce. And so at that point in time, demand was at an all-time high for trailers. So at that time, it was Pat and I in a basement and a phone and a computer. And we started calling truck drivers that we found on Safer Watch and other places online, learning about their business, asked them what kind of freight they ran, drive-in, reefer, flatbed, intermodal. We'd find drive-in carriers and say, where do you need a trailer? And they'd say, anywhere you can find one. And we'd say, how about Hermiston, Oregon? And they'd say, okay, that's fine. I'll drive 1,000 miles to pick it up. That's just like the environment that we were in at that time, how hot the spot market was and how high trailer demand was. So we really started out, Pat and I, putting ourselves in the shoes of an everyday truck driver. How do they go about sourcing trailer capacity? What are their problems? What are the big fleet problems in terms of where trailers get stuck out of network, where they're sitting underutilized? and how do we make that match? And at the beginning, it was all phone call, email, making the match between me and Pat. So that's kind of how we got started.
Well, I love it. And I know, again, I think it's so critical. And I can tell you, like, I see you everywhere. I feel like at least the last year or so, I'm seeing REPOWR all over the place. And I think you're doing a fantastic job embracing the industry, marketing, being present and engaged and growing. And I really like the story, but even more important to me is the people behind it. And I think you're building a class act organization. And at the end of the day, people want to do business with people they know and trust. I'm curious, how important is it to you to be as active and engaged in the industry as you've been the past few years?
Yeah. I mean, it's important. In the early days, we always looked at our business like we want to learn and we have to understand the customer needs. We have to understand their networks in order to connect all these companies throughout the industry to opportunities and new partners. We just have to talk to them. And we're a technology company, but at the end of the day, it's a very relationship-driven business, and we understand that. And so we lead with that. And so I think why we've been successful so far is we really lean on those early adopters and early customers, and we learn from them. We wanted to hear what they thought of our product, and we still do this stuff today. And so really just spending time with the customers, going to see them face-to-face time has been a huge aspect. But, now that we're building, new tools and new features and things that help them make better decisions in the marketplace every day and how to effectively run their fleet and show them opportunities, it's really important for us to continue to get our name brand out there and have people asking questions. And, whether you own an asset or you don't own an asset, there's an opportunity with REPOWR. And it's just fitting all the pieces together and getting a full understanding and getting used to it and trying it out. So getting our name out there is definitely important at this stage.
But even still, I mean, 100% agree. And I think you guys are doing a fantastic job with that. But you care. And I think that's what is so evident. And that's why I said people do business with people they know and trust. And especially in this industry, and I know you're from it, so you get it. But it's not common when it's common when somebody's trying to build a technology solution and they're not from the industry and they expect that they can it should be easy, right? Just build it and they will come. And that's just not how it works. But when you're from the industry and you get it and you understand the importance of building relationships, listening to your customers and caring like that, I think that's the recipe for success. So I'm excited. I'm excited not just for where you are today. I'm really excited to watch you grow, and I'm excited to be I'm on the sidelines, but I get to watch, and it's fun to watch, especially when you're rooting for people that you really like. So before we go, I'd like to know just what's the best way for our audience to connect with you, to learn more about how REPOWR can help them and their operations. What would you suggest?
Yeah, so you can find us www.repowr, repowr.com/THR. There's a landing page there. It'll tell you all about REPOWR. For myself, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find Pat on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, reach out. We'd love to talk to you, whether you're a enterprise fleet, broker, shipper, or owner operator. We're here to help.
Yeah, and I'm connected to both of you, have been for some time. And again, you're very visible, you're very active and engaged, and I really appreciate that. For one, I want to thank you both so much for joining me. Really respect and appreciate the work you're doing to improve the industry and help fleets operate more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy. Keep up the good work.
And thanks for joining me for another episode of Taking the High Road. Stay tuned for the next episode as guest host Leah Shaver, President and CEO of National Transportation Institute, fills in. And once again, special thanks to the sponsors of this show. We really appreciate you. If you're interested in being a sponsor or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. Until next time, thank you for taking the higher road.